Welcome to another online tutorial from New Life Baptist Academy. This is the voice of Christopher Nader. This tutorial is going to tell us how to use the power of Excel to find the average. That's a mathematical concept. It's usually referred to as average, meaning the mean average. There are several other averages you'll learn when you get deeper into math. But when someone says, what's the average? What they mean is, what's the mean average? And that's always found by adding up all of the data points and dividing by the number of data points. In this case, in our sample of the student grades on the quiz, we'd like to see what the average grade was. In an earlier tutorial, we looked and we saw that the range of the scores was from a low of 68 by Peter to a high of 103 by Rebecca. That's our range, but what's our average? It might be nice for a teacher to know, for example, that on this quiz the average score was higher or lower than other quizzes. So how do we find that out? Well, the first thing we need to do is to use the power of Excel to find the sum of all the data points. And we've learned in other tutorials how to do that. We can go down beneath the data, the column of numbers we want to sum up, and click, and then hit equal to, then type in sum, open paren, up to the first cell we want to add, slide down to all of them, put a close paren, and equal, 0. That can't be right. Here's why it's not right. We've asked Excel to add up data cells, or cells with data in them, but those cells also have words in them, like the words points. That confuses Excel, and it can't do mathematical functions unless the only thing it sees in a cell is a number. So we got to clean that up. So let's go to the right and just retype in the numbers. So I'm going to put 103 for Rebecca, 68 for Peter, 88 for Saul, 92 for Mary, 97 for Martha, and 99 for Joshua. Then I want to get rid of the bad ones, the bad cells that had the words in it as well as the numbers. So I select it, right-click, delete, shift the cells to the left, hit OK, and it moves just my numbers over. Now you can see that what we ask it to add up doesn't mean anything down here anymore. Number sign reference exclamation mark means there's a problem here. So let's get rid of that, and now let's ask Excel to sum this. So first let's put a label over here so we don't get mixed up on what we're asking it to do. We're going to say put the sum, and we're going to align that text align right so we don't mistakenly think it's one of the student names. And then we're going to say to Excel, as we've learned before, make this cell equal to the sum of, parenthesis, this one, slide down to all the ones you want to add up, close paren, hit enter, and 547 is our number. Now, we know that these are points, but sometimes you'll have a complicated spreadsheet where you won't be able to remember what the value was in here. Was it points or grams or milliliters or horsepower or whatever? So it's always a good idea, if you're not going to put ever the value, to put it in the header row. For example, you could put grade on the quiz in points. Now we know that everything in that column are points. And I don't like this 547 aligned right, so let's make it centered as well. Okay, so that's how we get the sum, but how do we get the average? Remember, the average is the sum of all the data points divided by the number of data points. Well, how many data points have we got? Well, the slow way would be to count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we got 6 of them. But why not use the power of Excel to help us do that? So let's number the rows. We'll go into the student name cell, slide down through sum, right click and insert, shift the cells to the right please, hit OK. Now we've got room to number the columns. We learned this in an earlier tutorial. We can put a 1 here and center it all so we can see it better, and then say to Excel I'd like each cell underneath it to be the one above it plus 1. Enter. That says that's how we find the formula for each cell. I click and drag down, select. Now I've selected where I want to copy the formula that's in the cell showing 2, and then do a control with my left hand. Hold down the control key. With my right finger I hold down the D key, or hit the D key once for control down or copy down. That's the D key, and there's my 6. So what this says is I have 6 rows of data. If this data was several hundred rows long, it would be very important to have Excel add up the columns for us. So now let's put in this row underneath sum the average. So I type in average colon, so I remember that that's what I'm putting to the right of it, and I make that flush right so it makes it look pretty. And then I say to Excel, I'd like this cell to equal the sum of all the data, which is 547, divided by the number of cells of data that I've got, which in this case is the highest number, or 6. And it says the average is 91. Let me center that. Now typically with an average you'd carry it out to one more decimal place than the data that you're adding up, or that you're summing. So to do that, we would click on this box 91, go into our Home tab and our Font tab, click the little box to the lower right, brings up the Formatting Cells sub-window, go to the Number tab, go down to Number, and go to Decimal Places, which is now at 0. Let's make it 1. So we go up arrowhead 1 to 1, and we hit OK, and it says the real answer is 91.2 points for the average. That's the so-called two-step method for finding it, and I'll give you full credit for that, because if I click on this, I'm going to see that you used the formula. You had Excel use the formula C12 divided by A11, and that's how you got the average. I'd also accept if you want to do it in one step, and here's how you do it in one step. You would say, I want Excel to calculate this as follows. Make this cell equal to the sum of all of my 6 students, parenthesis, divided by the number of data points, 6, and it should give me the same number when I hit enter, and it does. So you can tell Excel I want to do it the old-fashioned way, which is to first add up the numbers to get a sum of 547, and then in another cell ask it to equal 547 divided by the number of data points, which is 6, or you can do it all at once as I did here and say add them up. There's my formula. Let's click on it again, look up in the formula box. There's my formula, the sum of cells C6 to C11, Rebecca through Joshua, divided by the number of data points, which is why we numbered the columns, which is 6. Gives us the same answer. And then to make it look pretty again, we'd probably go here and go to our add all borders subroutine or icon and click all borders, and now we've got borders around the data again. And by the way, the data looks nice this way. The numbers are centered and the student names are flush left or aligned left. See, if we make these centered, it's harder to see. We don't like that. So we select them and make them flush left, but we leave the answers centered. So that's the concept of average. And then the teacher could say, wow, the average grade on this quiz was 91.2. How does that compare to the average grade on other quizzes we've taken? The average is a powerful technique, and Excel makes it easy to do it. And a note on how easy Excel does it. There are other shortcuts in Excel for finding the average. In my class, I don't want you to use those shortcuts. Later, as you become more familiar with Excel, I'm happy to have you use those. But while I'm teaching you how to figure out how to use spreadsheets and how to use the power of the math functions in Excel. I want you to do it so you can show me your work. And you show me your work by enabling me to click on one of your cells and see the formula in the formula bar at the top. So that's how we learned how to do averages. Very powerful technique. Thanks for learning.